Hello everyone. Today I will be doing a reaction and discussion of Season 1, Episode 2 of House of the Dragon.
At least the princess has a plan.
She's also your heir. You should probably be listening to her just a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's why she's.
The hand of the king is
Yep.
a bit of a problem.
He might thank him for his loyal service.
We thank you for your loyal service to the crown, sir.
She's just like, that could be anywhere but here.
Rhaenys is like, oh girl.
Winner of the melee outside of all. He was the last mounted of 3 of 20 knights. Sir Iman was knighted at 8 and
How
10.
many of these knights have combat experience? I choose Sir Christian Cole.
Let's not be too hasty, princess.
She went,
There's no doubt.
he's
Sir
actually
Christian
proven
is
he can
a
protect me.
fine warrior, but houses such as Crickle and Alistair are important allies of the crown. Seaguard, for instance, is the realm's prime defense against raiders from the Iron
We're
Islands.
trying to Tawny knights. My father should be defended by a man who's known of combat. She's not.
Agreed.
Of course. There are times when I would rather face the Black Dread himself than my own daughter of 15. You can either sail into it or around it, but you must never await its coming.
Do you have a specific course of action to propose, my lord?
Join our families. Wed our daughter Lena. Unite the two great surviving Targaryen houses. With the Targaryen dragons and the Valarian fleet bound in blood, you can show the realm that the crown's strongest days are ahead.
Yeah, Lena is like very, very young.
I must admit, I haven't given marriage much thought. It hasn't even been half a year since I'm apart.
The realm expects you to take a new wife sooner, Richard, to strengthen your line and produce more heirs. You could not ask for a stronger match than me.
They also expect married people to have sex, and she is a little girl.
Have we been introduced to her? No.
No, they just showed her image during that tournament, and that was about it. That's maggots.
Their flesh and hopefully it'll stop their financial run.
That's not. Ugh.
I dearly love my
Poor
unmarried
dog.
wife.
Yeah, you shut
I'm
that
sorry,
directly on top of
Fizzy.
him.
And to be
I tried to
compelled
cover up Rusty.
replace her for duty's sake. You are the king, but I do not envy you.
I don't envy your stupidity. She's so teeny.
Exactly. Inappropriate. Please. Ew.
What was it like flying the Black Dread? Your Grace? It would be a great honor to join our houses, as they were in Old Valyria. I would give you many children of pure Valyrian blood, so that we might strengthen the royal line and the realm.
Is that what your father taught you to say? What did your mother tell you?
That I wouldn't have to beg you until I turned 14.
It's like, God, this conversation sucks.
So much.
It bothers you, does it not?
My father is a king. It is his duty to take a new wife and strengthen his line.
I did not ask for a lesson in politics. I asked whether this bothers you.
Lena is your daughter, princess. Does it bother you?
Of course it does. order refusing. Here is the hard truth, which no one else has the heart to tell you. Men would sooner put the ram to the torch than see a woman sent the iron throne. And your father is no fool.
Yet he did what he did, and
Stands by the decision.
yeah, and doesn't do
better than I
anything to
expected.
cement it really.
A small camp. Why do you destroy us?
Probably because you're putting her in awkward positions she should never be put in.
Maybe see the king tonight.
Just stay at Dragonstone. Maybe fall off the side.
Jump.
Oh, but it'd be so much more fun if he was pushed.
Go to the Erie. Knock him out the main door. Erie,
And that's the
Misty.
place Daenerys came to.
Because it pretty much runs out uninhabited.
Banish your whore and leave
The poor lady
Dragonstone by
Agnes.
order of his grace King
Where is the
Viserys.
king? I don't see him.
His grace would never lower himself to entertain such a mother's farce.
Or you don't want him there.
Of course, he doesn't want him to be killed.
It's a Christman, wasn't it?
Sir Kristen Cole, my friend.
Ah, yes, apologies. I couldn't recall.
Perhaps my prince recalls when I knocked him off his horse.
Very good.
This is a truly pathetic show, King. Are you so desperate for the king's attention that you've resorted to skulking about like a common
I'm
cutpurse?
simply keeping with the traditions of my house, the same as my brother did for his heir.
Those traditions are for the true-born children of royalty, not for bastards fathered on a common whore.
Lady Nassara is to be my wife.
This is an abomination. With every breath you soil your name, your house, and your brother's reign.
Our love does not know titles and traditions.
Looked like she was aware of that or
And
something.
what of you, men?
Is that Praxis?
Dragon! Dragon said, did you just threaten my woman? I do have a plan.
All of you, sheathe the fucking steel.
Oh gosh.
Do you have another dragon?
Ah.
It's just the
Sucks.
quite the power move.
Would do
She's
well
like, I'll come up and take the
to
egg.
take me fucking seriously.
What are you doing here, princess?
Preventing bloodshed.
Sir Kristen, please escort the princess to safety.
Take care not to startle Syrax, my lord. She's rather protective of me.
Kefanuha ineza drito, darira roso prostas, kesu ugleisa, luon zombaz mianukon isa, kibus,
Yes, la voce, oro, tao.
ledroso dari o ikida,
Inverari olorion, tao. Tubi maneri, nike de nigras.
aproziri ziriemu.
Treta ni, tao.
Sekle jesut nuchon gronkron,
I gotta find some English subtitles. These are French.
Some French.
She said something about him leaving that house. And he mentioned the marriage.
Yes, we can read those random words that don't give us context.
That's about it.
I'm right here, Uncle. The object of your ire. The reason that you be disinherited. If you wish to be restored as heir, you'll need to kill me. So do it.
She just comes right out and says it. I like her.
I think he does too.
Oh, I know he does.
Doctor, you ain't gonna kill her?
Ever since my name was read by the Archmaesters at the Great Council, I have felt Cordis Valarian's envious gaze staring at me from across the Blackwater.
I wonder why.
You sit upon the highest seat in the realm, Your Grace. Proud men don't like having to look up.
Lena
And
Valarian.
you caused his wife
Lord
to be
Corlys
passed
is your
over,
master of
which
ships.
causes his whole family to not
She
be
is
in
the
the line
eldest
of
daughter of the
succession.
wealthiest house in the realm. She comes from unimpeachable Valyrian stock, and she has Targaryen blood. What's to mislike?
She's 12.
She will mature.
Not fucking appropriate.
As king, you have a
But
claim
he
on
sees
all
it as
things.
inappropriate.
Mm-hmm.
Even those you don't want. Marriage is not an obligation you can put off for long.
What if I was to reject Lord Cordis' proposal?
He would not be like to take it well. I fear nothing short of a direct line to the Iron Throne is satisfying. You should also consider that we find ourselves on the precipice of war in the Stepstones, and the Sea Snake holds claim to nearly half the realm's ships.
Your Grace.
Other way.
The princess has returned from Dragonstone.
He's like, she did what?
Oh.
Prove that she's badass.
Your Grace.
I made a
You
power.
disobeyed me. You fled King's Landing without a word.
Call
You
it
acted
fleeing.
without the crown's leave. You are my only heir. You could have been killed.
And I said,
You went to Dragonstone.
I'm a truly egg without bloodshed. A feat not sure Sir Otto could have accomplished alone.
I don't think he would have.
Yes, well. I sometimes forget how alike you both were. I intend to marry him. The Lady Alison Hightower. Before Spring's End.
Is that her?
Mm-hmm.
This is an absurdity.
And she's not 12.
No, but she's
That much
still
older.
She's
very
the
young.
age that they would have expected him to start with her too.
Yeah.
But she's already been kind and he knows her. Which is exactly why that guy had her talking to him.
Yep. Well, and apparently he did the same thing with the previous king. So he knew he could get away with doing that shit.
For centuries, my house had to scratch out an existence from the sea with grit and luck. When I ascended the Driftwood throne, I knew what I wanted. So I went out and seized it. Unlike every other lord of the realm, I can say that I built my house's high seat with the strength of mine own back. its fall. My house will be crippled. I will not have Driftmark beggared while our king idles himself with feasts, balls, and tourneys.
I will speak with my brother as I wish. We will not.
What do you mean, Step Stones?
Okay, so
It's a
the
chance for you
siblings.
to prove your worth
You
to
can talk
anyone
about
who
your own
doubts it.
sibling like crap, but nobody else is allowed to.
The other realm's second
Everyone
son
allowed
is
to call
slain.
them little bitches me.
Our worth is not given.
Someone who's equally a little bitch.
All right, everyone. That was Season 1, Episode 2 of House of the Dragon. And what an episode it was. Really amazing, awesome imagery. Really getting things going. I am loving the introduction with the wheels turning and everything moving forward. The future of the House of the Dragon, the Targaryen family, and the kingdoms of Westeros is being laid. Just a little bit from the previous episode, I had been curious about the Septon, who I wanted to know who he was. And when I looked him up, I was really not able to find like the name of the Septon, just that it was the Septon. But I looked back through the episode again, and the second time around, it sounded like the king called him Septon Baelor. I think that might be what he said. Not 100% sure. At the beginning of this episode, we see this really gruesome scene with these people who are being eaten alive by crabs. Who apparently this dirty work is being done by this person they're calling the crab feeder, because he literally takes the sailors that he's capturing and feeds them to the crabs. And I may talk a little bit more about this later on. I found it kind of funny in this episode that the Hand, Otto Hightower, was complaining about Corlys and his overreaching, because seriously, this episode is at least, he's at least twice demonstrated his overreaching in his position. Yes, he's the Hand of the King, but come on. Point where he's talking to his daughter and asking why she's destroying herself. Like, seriously, dude? She's doing that because of you. Because you put her in this horrible, awful position. You, Otto Hightower, Hand of the King, are putting your daughter, apparently for the second time, into an awkward position that she probably never should have been put in the first place. Showing us just how willing you are to use your power and coercion to place yourself in a higher position to overreach. And you're going to complain about Corlys Velaryon? We do get to see Rhaenyra during some of the King's Council meetings. And she, every once in a while, will interject and give her opinion, some advice. And I think, honestly, her advice has been quite wise lately. And, but, you know, they're men. They're used to having men in charge and not hearing the woman, and they don't take her seriously. And the first thing they do is try to get her out of the council meetings. So they come up with this idea. They're going to have her decide on the next Kingsguard. And she decides to raise Kristen Cole to the position of Kingsguard because He's the only knight that was there that actually had combat experience. He actually had combat experience, whereas these other knights had mostly tournament experience. Something that I think people in general should keep in mind, whether it's a woman, a kid, a peasant, somebody who's poor or rich, intelligent, unintelligent, if they have advice to give that's wise, that makes sense for the situation, maybe listen to it. In spite of their position, in spite of your Heidi position, listen. Give them the time of day and take some serious thought and consideration into what they're saying. Because honestly, not listening to stuff like that is going to get you and your kingdom in trouble. And I suspect we'll see some of that later. When it comes to Carlos Valerian, he does attempt to convince the king early on that these people in the Stepstones, the crab feeder, and other people involved over in the Stepstones are a threat and need to be taken care of, like with a quickness. Be really serious, really show your strength so that you can get this situation under wraps and take care of it. But he was shot down primarily at the hands of Otto Hightower is what it looked like to me. What are you going to do? You have this hand that is that wants himself, his family, put in a higher position, and he sees Carlos Valerian as a threat. And you have Carlos Valerian who also wants to get into a better position, whose family had previously gotten short end of the stick when it comes to the line of succession, because when his wife was passed over during that great council and was not able to become queen, his son also was passed over, which, that takes him from this position where he should have a very strong, stable position within that family, within that line of succession, and moves him aside so that he has no actual line of succession within the family. And so I get it. I get where he's coming from. So after Carlos Valerian is shot down concerning the Stepstones, he puts forth his daughter Lena as an option to marry the king in order to mend fences with the family, in order to get back into that line of succession, in order to increase his position, his family's position, and the power that they have. Which, as we see later on in the episode, does not work out because frankly, Lena is 12 years old. She is a little girl. She is not there, and he already is developing this relationship with Alicent Hightower, the Hand to the King's daughter. And yes, it's because the Hand of the King has been requesting that she go in there, but he does feel comfortable with her. She does have this rapport with him, and she is older than Lena. I still think it's very inappropriate. I think I said last episode, I'm pretty sure that he is like twice her age and she is still a teenage girl. So I still see it as very inappropriate. But in that time and place, in that kind of position, most of them are going to see that as fairly normal. But as you see from the king doesn't see it. The king sees it as awkward. The king doesn't feel that it's right, and I don't blame him, not one tiny bit. So he proposes that he's going to marry Alicent instead, who is a little bit older, who he at least gets, and who he at least has a bit of a connection with. I'm just very frustrated and angry that her father would put her in this position, and has apparently done this before. Sorry for the spoiler, that's from Fire and Blood, but yeah, I don't know that he put her in a sexual position, but he put her in the position of intentionally befriending the king to increase his family's strength within the realm. So I don't like it. I don't like it at all. We see Rhaenys in here talking to Rhaenyra about her feelings about the positions that she's being put in, about the decisions that the men are making, how they are acting towards her words and her decisions, and Rhaenys makes this very valid point, and I'll just quote, which some of you probably have heard this quote even before this episode because it was in a couple of the trailers. When it comes to the order of things and how things work, she says, "Men would sooner put the realm to the torch than see a woman ascend the Iron Throne." And I think that is very, very true. I think, though, that it's not just the men. I think in the future we'll see, some of the complexity of this, that it's not just this straight line in the sand kind of thing. But we should also keep in mind that the way the women behave and the things that the women do also have an effect on these ideas when it comes to women, when it comes to a woman's position. And I think we should probably really be looking at, I get what Rhaenys is saying, and I totally, because of the stuff that she's been through, she has every right to feel this way, and she's right. She is absolutely right. But I think we need to really be paying attention to Alicent in the future, because I think she is going to have major influence on how the realm reacts when it comes to having a female heir. So it's not just the men, it's the women also. And we see this in real life as well. A lot of minorities end up in this position. They don't have a lot of choice when it comes down to it. They know that if they don't stay within those roles, then they are more likely to get hurt as a result of it. They are more likely to get in trouble as a result of it. They're more likely to be called out, whether that's in the past or today, in the present, and I'm sure well into the future. That's an unfortunate reality. We see later on in the episode, we see Daemon has claimed that his Lysini girlfriend is pregnant and he's going to marry her, has presented her this egg as a gift, and of course the people in the realm are not the people in control of the realm, the council, the king, they're not having it. They go back to confiscate this egg, and and then we get to see the dragons. Okay, I'm telling you, the dragons know. So Daemon's dragon comes up, Caraxes, and he is just looking as strong and awesome and magnificent as he is. And then we get to see Syrax with Rhaenyra on him, and she lands, and she does a magnificent job of talking Daemon down. But I really liked she just came straight out and told him, you are striking out at what was done to you, but I am the object of your ire. It is me that is the issue here. If you have any desire to be restored as heir to the king, you're going to have to kill me. She just comes straight out and says it. And even though we know, well, I know that they kind of, they have this thing for each other. They like each other. She's right. She's right. Like, what are you going to do? Of course, if he were to kill her, I don't think that's going to get him back into the king's good graces, obviously. It's not going to make him the heir, because that's just going to piss the king off even more. And there are other ways to handle heirs to the king when they are being a problem, so that they cannot become king. So we know that, but yeah, I was like, I really liked, she just came straight out and said it. And those dragons were just, they're so magnificent. I am loving seeing the dragons, and I can't wait to see more of them. And then after that, we see Daemon talking to Macerys, and I said this while I was watching, that it didn't look like she was even aware that he was going to, that there were any plans of marriage, or that there was ever a pregnancy or anything. So, but he does come out and acknowledge that this was a lie, that this was a ploy. And she is very upset, understandably so. She is very upset because of this. And she tells him, she says, I came to you to be liberated. And he asks her, the last scene that I think was shown in the show, in this episode, concerning the crab feeder. And like I said, Corlys had been shot down when it came to waging war on the crab feeder and in the Stepstones. But now he's come to Daemon, since Daemon's been spurred by the king, since Corlys has been shot down, and he feels that he can kind of get on Daemon's good side and explain, how they have this connection and how that connection makes them in some ways alike. The fact that Corlys actually had, really fought his way to his position, that Corlys worked his way up. He got to where he is through determination and hard work, this American dream that people like to imagine. So many people have done by working and grinding and working their way to the top. This is like a kind of like a real story of somebody who really work their way up to their position, and in a time where that's not usually how those kind of positions work. But for him, that's how he did it. He busted his butt working on those ships for decades, since he was a teeny tiny kid. That's all I got. I've got to get on out of here, and I hope to see you guys. It won't be next week because, frankly, I think the next episode shows in like a half a week, and by the time I am able to get this aired on YouTube, it will probably be a lot closer, because it has been taking me a while to get everything done and get my videos accepted by YouTube. Hope to see you and hear from you when the next episode is out. Bye!